Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paddy and welcome back for another edition of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, the best damn territorial wrestling in the world. And indeed it is a sad day in territorial wrestling, as I now have to tell you that we are the only provider of territorial wrestling on the East Coast. Because after years of struggle and years of fighting in the hardest, the most amazing wrestling community in the world, New York City Wrestling, have gone under. They were acquired by SWF in October, and finally the word has gotten across the wrestling world, and we pay tribute to a fine promotion that has offered so many contributions to the Confederation of the Territories, and many, many fantastic wrestlers who have passed by there. Some of our very own, George Wolf and Scythe, among many others, the Ring Generals. So many of those people learnt so much from New York City Wrestling, and its demise and death is definitely a sad note. But it's much more important to remember the happy times and what the promotion had given us, rather than mourn its loss. And indeed, that is what I hope to do tonight with a fantastic show. The Night of the Champions. We're going to have a championship match indeed in our main event of the evening. The Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship is on the line, but I'm not going to tell you exactly who is in that match because we will have an announcement as the show starts as to that effect. Additionally, tonight we do have a match that I can announce, as we are going to have a wonderful tag team match tonight. The Devil May Care, Acid and Stuntman are making their first defense of their Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championships. However, it is definitely not your everyday defense. It is not your everyday match, because they're taking on Tigre Salvaje Jr. and El Jaguar. And indeed, this was a match that happened earlier in the year, and Devil May Care came out on top. So tonight, the Confederation has scheduled it. It is unprecedented. It's title versus title, because both the World Heavyweight Tag Team Championships and the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Tag Team Championships will both be on the line as the Wildcats take on Devil May Care. Much more to come tonight. It's a big show. It's a big night. It's the final show of 2022. Let us do New York City Wrestling the justice it deserves by putting on one hell of a show, because the show indeed must go on, and they would prefer it, I'm sure, if the Confederation did well in their absence. So, let's get started with the final show of the year, the Night of the Champions. Let's do it. We start off with Boss Man Brayfield coming out and saying things they need doing. So tonight, we're going to have a Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship match. Ernest Youngman will defend. Now, there are a lot of contenders for that title. James Diaz probably deserves a rematch. Dewey Archer and Davis Wayne Newton have earned shots at that title. But indeed, James Diaz, his actions last month will not be tolerated. He's been suspended tonight, and we'll see what happens with him. Davis Wayne Newton, you're going to get your shot in the coming future. But tonight, we're going to have a dream match. We're going to have a match that hasn't happened since 2019, but a match that happened so many times before that. Because Dewey Archer is going to get a shot at Ernest Youngman. A big main event tonight. And we kick things off with American Elemental, who is in town, of course, becoming a special attraction for us here in Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, touring a lot in Japan. And we don't get to see him very often, but when we do, he does put on a show, and he goes out there against a local rising star, the Mean Machine, who's had a fantastic year, who has picked up a lot of big victories in the territory this year. And he's no doubt going to have a fantastic 2023. He tries to work down American Elemental. He tries to beat down the colourful character that we know and love in American Elemental. But he's got too much pace. He's got too much colour. He's got too much heart. And indeed, American Elemental fights back. He hits those ropes. He hits that momentum. And he gets swinging. And when he gets swinging, nobody can stop him because he's fast, he's quick, he's innovative, and he's been all over the world. He's Mexican influence, Japanese influence, but born right here in the United States. And indeed, he has the style that you need to pay the bills, and he picks up the victory with that American Earthbreaker. And indeed, we move on as Gary Walker begins his crusade against Team Progress. Of course, it's a very different looking Team Progress. We're going to see the Ring Generals and Logan Wolfsbane in action later tonight. against George Wolfe and the Southern Stars. Big 6-man tag team match in our semi-main event of the evening. But now we get to see Gary Walker, who trained so long in order to take on Logan Wolfsbane, but he's starting at the base of Team Progress. He's starting with Robin DeLay, and tonight he picks up the victory against Robin DeLay. Both these men, brawlers at heart. Robin DeLay with more aggressive, more physical brawling attribute, trying to beat down Gary Walker, and Gary Walker just using that charismatic work from underneath, fiery strikes lefts and rights, and picking up the victory with his electrifying bionic clothesline. Huge victory for Gary Walker, picking up the victory over a solid competitor in Robin DeLay. Then we have the return to the company of Sid Collier. I mean, I guess he's not really a return. He doesn't make too many appearances these days. He's doing a lot out in Chicago. One half of the Chicago Tag Team Champions right now out in the Chicago Championship Wrestling. But he's back here tonight to take on Froshore, and Froshore, of course, is down. Froshore down on his luck, got cheated out of a victory at Where It All Begins again. A huge victory for Davis Wayne Newton, but Froshore sadly was on the receiving end of that one. And indeed, he takes on Sid Collier tonight, and this is a pretty back and forth match. Sid Collier with that grimy kind of almost Chicago style of just working down Froshore, kind of grind him out with that grimy, slick style that we know he's good for. And Froshore with that heart, never say die attitude, fighting from underneath and trying to work himself back into this match. But Sid Collier, as he tends to do, blatantly cheats and screws Froshore out of another victory. An absolutely horrid year for Froshore. Absolutely horrible. He's had a really bad year, and not the way he wanted to end it off. As we move on to the return of the Aces of Mayhem, a very nostalgic match this one, as the Aces of Mayhem take on the Heartbreak Express, two tag teams that have been in Mid-Atlantic Wrestling for a very, very long time, as the Aces of Mayhem obviously take to the skies with their high-flying attitude and high-risk maneuvers, innovative stuff, as they take on the Heartbreak Express, more of a down-to-earth traditional heel tag team, of course managed by the ever-insatiable Lisa Bowen, who constantly gets involved, constantly trying to tip the balance in the favor of her boys, the Heartbreak Express. But the Heartbreak Express, unfortunately on this day, not able to pick up the victory over the 3-time Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, the Aces of Mayhem. That's, of course, just as a tag team. I can't remember. I think it's Max Mayhem, who is a 4-time Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champion. It might be Ace though. One of them won a 4th Tag Team Championship with a separate tag team partner. But as a tag team, they're 3-time Tag Team Champions. And indeed, they pick up the victory tonight. I haven't seen them in a good while, so good victory for them in their return to the promotion. We also have Davis Wayne Newton ending the year with a victory, despite not getting a title shot tonight, picking up the victory over Earl Martin after blatantly cheating. Davis Wayne Newton, of course, gives zero shits about anything anymore. He's going to do what he wants to do, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And indeed tonight, using that steel chair that he's become accustomed to using, licking it with pure glee and pleasure before smashing it over the face of the fast-talking, fast-wrestling, LA-styled Earl Martin, former SWF star Earl Martin. And indeed, Davis Wayne does pick up the victory in this one, though. That's to take nothing away from the fantastic year that Earl Martin has had. After the match, Davis Wayne Newton, he gets on the mic and says, I won my match to get a future shot at the Mid-Atlantic Championship on the same night as Dewey Archer. But let's not talk about it. Let's forget about that. Right? Because I'm used to having to climb my way up and earn my opportunities, while other people like Dewey Archer just get it handed to them. I'm used to it. I'm used to it by now, because every single time I earn something, it just gets yanked from under me because I'm not good enough, or I don't look right, or I don't talk right, or I don't wrestle right, or whatever it is the boss man Brayfield seems to have an issue with. I don't even care. Because last year, I hesitated. Last year, I had a shred of decency, and I still got to the finals of the Ripcord Invitational. So if that's what I could do last year, imagine what I could do with all my inhibitions turned off, with all my fury and all my rage building in my chest. Imagine what I can do where I just don't care anymore. The Ripcord Invitational, I will enter it. And I will kill anybody who gets in my way. And I will win the Ripcord Invitational. And I will win the Mid-Atlantic Championship. Deal with it. Davis Wade Newton, his inhibitions turned off, is on a warpath. And we head to the interview area where Sweet Tabitha asks MC Motormouth whether he has established contact with James Diaz, the Return of the Monster, and MC Motormouth says, Sweet Tabitha, baby girl, you are looking at the #1 management specialist in professional wrestling today. You are looking at the man who has managed some of the greatest acts in the business. I am the man who brings money everywhere I go, and you think I couldn't get a client? You think I couldn't get my man? When MC Motormouth chooses his man, he gets him every single time. And you know what? I only had to phone up James Diaz after the proving ground and say, you want a shot? And he said, damn right, I want a shot. So you're not looking at the man who manages some of the greatest acts in California anymore. You're looking at the man who manages the greatest act in the Mid-Atlantic. And you're not thinking about the Return of the Monster anymore. You know, he may be suspended tonight, but I can bet you I'm going to get him back sooner rather than later. I'm going to get him his title shot sooner rather than later. Because he's no longer the Return of the Monster. He's no longer just James Diaz. He is the big money monster. He is the greatest superstar in the history of this business. 21 years of age and already had one of the greatest championship matches this business has ever seen. So it's only up from here. His career trajectory is sharper. His career trajectory is steeper than any mountain on this planet. And you can believe that James Diaz will be champion by the end of 2023 because he is managed by the greatest management consultant in professional wrestling. You can believe that, baby. MC Motormouth got his man. He's got his client. What does this mean for the big money monster, James Diaz? As we move in, ladies and gentlemen, I believe, into our main event segments. It is time for our tag team match. It is World Heavyweight Tag Team Championships versus Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Who will come away with all the belts? Indeed, in a 59C, Devil May Care defeat Tigre Salvaje Jr. and El Jaguar in a massive spot fest, as we would expect from this match, as the Californian high flyers go at it with the high flying spot monkey style that we know from California, trying everything in their arsenal to try and pick up the victory. But they're up against the Valhalla Boys. They're up against the men who don't care how many concussions or broken bones they get when they use their bodies as a weapon. It's all worth it for that shot at glory. And tonight, they are in for the greatest glory in their career if they can lift above their heads not only the most prestigious regional tag team championships in the business today, but also the big ones. The gold that prove that they're the #1 tag team in the world today. The gold, you know, we've talked about the World Heavyweight Championship being the most expensive piece of gold on the planet today. Well, you look at the tag team titles, and maybe they're a little less flashy, but they're two of them bitches. And indeed, that's exactly the amount of glory that Devil May Care attain tonight with their Valhalla style, with the jump, the shark being the better high flyers. And indeed, finally, they lift 4 whole title belts. As a trio, as a tag team, as a stable, Devil May Care are the best around. And indeed, Kamikaze gets on the mic and says, you're looking at the greatest tag team in professional wrestling history. We have put our bodies on the line. We have scratched, we have clawed, we have flung ourselves into anything and everything you can think of, and you are looking at the most decorated tag team in Mid-Atlantic history. 3-time, count them, 3-time Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions, and now we have the greatest tag team gold in the world today. Aces of Mayhem, we can see you're back. St. Collier, I know your boy Cameron's back in California, in Chicago. I want you to round your boy Cammy up. Aces of Mayhem, I want to get yourselves ready. Because if you want to prove your honor, if you want to have any stake in being the greatest tag team in Mid-Atlantic wrestling history, well, boys, now you got to take a run. Because now it is the Acid and Stuntman pair. Now it is my boys. It is my best friends who are the greatest tag team in Mid-Atlantic wrestling history. So if you want any chance of keeping that honor, which I will grant you, you once had, you gotta mount a challenge, boys. Because right now, these are the best in the world. Kamikaze calling out the Aces of Mayhem. Kamikaze calling out the Dynamite Express. Will the challenge be answered? We move into our 6-man tag semi-main event of the evening, and Team Progress, the new look Team Progress of Logan Wolfsbane and the Ring Generals, defeat George Wolf and the Southern Stars. We have a very long match here. It's definitely a back and forth contest as the Southern Stars trying to work a normal tag team match with the Ring Generals. This is a matchup we've never really been seen before, the Southern Stars versus the Ring Generals. And Dean and Marv trying to isolate out Tennessee William, trying to work him down in their corner, trying to beat him up, quick tags, keeping themselves fresh while taking the wind out of the gut of Tennessee William, who of course loves his country music. But in the end, of course, you can't keep Tennessee William down for long, and he reaches across the ring, he gets that big hot tag to Animal Harker, and Animal Harker just goes on that rampage, beating down Dean Waldorf, beating down Marv Stadler, but then he comes to Logan Wolfsbane. Logan Wolfsbane, of course, genetically superior in the gym, 6, sometimes 7 if he's feeling real hype days a week. He takes his supplements and he works, he does not skip leg day. He does not skip leg day, and Logan Wolfsbane looks like a freak of nature. And even Animal Harker with that aggression, that bull in a china shop style, that level of momentum that he brings to every single match, and that brutality that he brings to his hot tags. He's still got to stare down the machine, the former Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion Logan Wolfsbane, and he's got to have fear in his eyes. Because I tell you what, if you want to run at Logan Wolfsbane, you are putting your life on the line, because the man is a machine. And indeed, that is what Animal Harker does, though, because he's got so much heart and so much passion, and he is the hottest tag in the business today, and he runs at Logan Wolfsbane, and Logan Wolfsbane takes him down and starts to work him down with that brutal, vicious technical style. Of course, it was barely 2 years ago at this very event that Logan Wolfsbane snaps a leg of Froshore, put him on the shelf for 4 months, put hard times upon him and his family, as we've been apt to hear since then. And indeed, Animal Harker tries to run at the big man, tries to run at Logan Wolfsbane, and gets taken down and worked down by the technical excellence that is Logan Wolfsbane. And in the end, though, it eventually comes to that stare down, that brutal, that emotional stare down between two big outlaws, that being Logan Wolfsbane and George Wolf, 2 men who have claimed to own this yard over the last month, 2 men that used to be very, very close. George Wolf taught Logan Wolfsbane everything George Wolf knew. But did he teach him everything Logan Wolfsbane knows? I don't know if that's the question. I mean, before, people have argued before that maybe he taught him everything Logan Wolfsbane knew, but he didn't teach him everything George Wolf knows. But I don't know. Logan Wolfsbane's got that extra edge. Logan Wolfsbane's been the Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion before, but maybe that George Wolf brings that extra edge. Maybe brings that Japanese style. Logan Wolfsbane only just started going to Japan. George Wolf has been there for over 5 years now. George Wolf has those brutal strikes, those brutal suplexes, but maybe Logan is younger. Logan is hungry like the wolf. And indeed, Logan Wolfsbane once again tonight, and perhaps more so tonight than at Where It All Begins Again, proves that he is willing to stand toe-to-toe with George Wolf. Because at Where It All Begins Again, it was a screwy finish. It was a nasty way to go, and although there was chaos in this 6-man tag, when it was down to just Logan versus George, Logan got the win. Lots that can be read from that, but not enough time to delve into it, because it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for our main event of the evening. As the interview area, Ernest Youngman, the Mid-Atlantic champion, stares down Sweet Tabitha and says, "Baby girl, tonight you're going to be watching the greatest rivalry in Mid-Atlantic history get another chapter." You see, in 2019 was the last time that me and Dewey Archer went head to head, and I gotta tell you, everything that I am and everything that he is hinges on tonight. Because when I arrived in Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, I was down on my luck. I spent so many months on the shelf with nobody, no company in this planet willing to pick up a boy from Chicago, Ernest Youngman. Not willing to pick him up. But Bossman Brayfield, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, they gave me a shot. and I took it. But when I took it, there was a man, his name was the Architect, and he said that I couldn't cut it. And he said that my time was gone, and you know what? He beat me. Because that lad was good, that lad was hungry, that lad was vicious. And he beat Ernest Youngman, he did. Fair and square. And that made me look introspectively. It made me look at myself and look at the territories and think, what can I do to be better than him? And ever since then, he has pushed me year after year, time after time, to get better and better. And I gotta tell you, he is a fantastic athlete. He's one of the best technical wrestlers on the territories today. But I'm the wrestling machine. I'm the best there has ever been. I'm the assassin of the squared circle, and I've said it before. Giants will fall. Diamonds may fade. But Ernest Youngman is forever, baby girl. And tonight, Dewey Archer, we fought a lot, but we've never fought for this title, the most prestigious title in the business today. We've never fought for this. So tonight, I add another name to this legendary title reign. Get ready for it, baby. Ernest Youngman hyped and ready for another chapter in the Dewey Archer Ernest Youngman feud. I believe it is number 6. How will it go? And in 82B, superb wrestling as these two, we've seen it before. We know what they're like. It's not about controlling the match. It's not about grinding out a victory. Their technical wrestling is all about showmanship. It's all about being flashy. It's all about escapism. As Dewey locks on a hold, slip behind by Ernest. As Ernest locks on a hold, slip behind from Dewey. Each man escaping the other's hold repeatedly, time after time, as they go hold for hold for minutes at a time. Not trying to really gain an advantage or gain control or work down a body part, but just to prove that they're better. To prove that they have the flashiest, the most exciting, the most quick-paced, fluid, smooth technical wrestling in the business. We've been hearing talk from both guys. Ernest Youngman says he's the best, says he's the greatest Mid-Atlantic wrestling champion in history. With this victory, if he were to get it, he would have more defenses than Logan Wolfsbane had, one of the most active Mid-Atlantic champions in history. He thinks he's the best of all time, and he's looking at a man, Dewey Archer, who disagrees. Dewey Archer thinks he's the uncrowned number 1 contender. Perhaps tonight he would say he's the uncrowned champion. Says he's the number 1 on the bill, and says he sells the most tickets. It's a little coincidental. This is one of the lowest attended shows in months, wouldn't you say? But I'm not going to delve too deep into that. Trained by the legendary Sam Keith. He even uses his finishing maneuver, the Proton Lock. Dewey Archer screams legacy, even though he was never born in this business. He has earned his way in. But he seems like a guy who's been here forever. He calls himself the local celebrity. In fact, we've all called him the local celebrity. He's got that aura about him. He's the most must-see MAW superstar in history. That's what he says. Says he's the greatest technical wrestler of all time. That's what he says. Says he's better than Sam Keith. Debatable. And tonight, though, he goes toe-to-toe with definitely one of the best technical wrestlers on the territories today. And his name is Ernest Youngman, who is the wrestling machine. With a smile and a wink to the crowd, he will lock in every single technical wrestling maneuver under the sun. Going hold for hold, working limb for limb, gaining that control over the match. Because even still, after all these years, he is that inch better than Dewey Archer is. Just that little bit is enough to gain control over the match. But Dewey's got that adaptability. When things aren't going well, he'll sweep a leg. He'll throw a punch. He'll set Ernest off his game. And that's indeed what happens tonight as Dewey sets Ernest off his game. But Ernest, he's got too much heart and so too much passion. Too much ring awareness to get set off his game. And Dewey Archer isn't like Davis Wayne Newton. He's not going to go for a chair. He's not going to go for a low blow. Dewey Archer, he does. He has the honor. He's a cocky prick. But he has honor. He has integrity. He follows a code. And he's not going to do anything egregious. He's not going to do anything underhanded. And indeed, that might be his downfall because he's in there with one of the best. He's in there with a guy who's been champion for over a year. Who is a 3-time world's heavyweight champion. Ernest Youngman is the greatest wrestler in the territories today. And you need to do something. Something to set him off. And Dewey Archer can't do it. And in the end, Ernest Youngman does lock in the crossface chicken wing. And Dewey knows he's beat. There's a lot of guys who have passed out to that move this year. But Dewey Archer isn't going to do that. Dewey Archer isn't going to be defiant, isn't going to be unruly. We've seen it before, guys who are just absolutely refuse to give Ernest Youngman the satisfaction of a tap out. But Dewey knows he's lost. He knows if he doesn't tap out, he's just going to pass out. And he respects Ernest enough to give it to him. He taps out and he says, I've lost. And Ernest Youngman retains the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship. After the match, though, Ernest Youngman is celebrating, and he goes to Dewey Archer and he extends his hand, but Dewey Archer rolls out of the ring and gets on the mic and says, why? Why can't I beat you? I beat you in our second, I can't remember. I beat you all those years ago, and ever since then, there have been so many matches. And every single time you've beaten me. Every single time I thought maybe I got a little bit better this time. Maybe you got a little bit worse. I was the architect, then I was Dewey Archer. I grew up. Yet you still beat me. Why? And he rolls back in the ring and he tosses the microphone halfway across the ring, and Ernest Youngman says, kid, I gotta tell you, you are one of my strongest opponents. I gotta tell you that. I'm not gonna go through the spiel. I'm not gonna rant out catchphrases at you and tell you why I'm the best. But you wanna think about why you can't beat me? Maybe it's a good time you take a look at yourself. You lie to yourself so much. You say that you're the best. You say that you can't get better. Yet, you've never experienced what I've experienced. You know, when you beat me, I took a journey. I took two. I took 2 journeys across these territories, and I looked at guys that were better than me, and I said, why are they better than me? Just like you just did to me, but I did that for 2 years. I went to Puerto Rico, I went to California, I went to New York, which you can't do anymore, and that's a shame. I went out to Japan. Just for a little bit, I went out to Japan. I went to the UK. I went up north to Canada. I asked, why are these guys better than me? And I went out there, and I proved that I can beat them. Because I learned and I evolved, and then I told them, come back here to Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, come to my territory now and show me why you're still the best. And they came and they lost. It was trial by fire, and it was a personal journey. Yet you have just stayed here in the Mid-Atlantic, saying you're the best in your little bubble, in your little cocoon, for 5 years, while everyone around you has grown up and either moved on or become a champion. If you want to ask yourself why you can't beat me, it's because you've not been through the journey that I have. But you are good, and you can do it, and I think you should. Ernest Youngman puts the mic down, like there's a little bow to Dewey Archer, and then leaves through the crowd, and Dewey Archer's left to contemplate and think. And indeed, there may be a big year ahead for the architect of your destruction. Thank you all for watching. Probably the best show we've ever run in terms of in-game numbers, and definitely the best match we've ever had in terms of in-game numbers. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Yes, it's been a fun year. It's been a jaunted year. I think by the time I start 2023, I should be able to just binge it, which is good, because I don't think anyone's going to leave now, touch wood, and I have some awesome stories planned for 2023. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, check out the rest of the series, subscribe if you haven't already. Link to my Patreon in the description if you're feeling especially generous. Always love that, keeps the channel rolling. Link to my Twitter in the description if you want to hear me ramble. Love to hear from you guys on Twitter, although I do prefer the YouTube comments. Make sure you leave those, because they're always fun to wake up to. Aside from that, yes, thank you all for watching 2022. It has been a wonderful year indeed. It's been a fantastic year of growth, despite the American economy crashing around us. And unfortunately bringing our ticket sales down. Hopefully next year will be better. I believe we have an election. No, we don't, do we? Do we have an election? No, we don't. We have 2 more years until an election. Maybe the game will take that into account and be like, fuck you, we're just going to crash the economy for the next 2 years. But hopefully not. Hopefully the economy gets better next year and people start coming to wrestling shows again. But I tell you what, if they do, there's one place they always can come, and that place, of course, is Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. We've lost some good brothers up in New York this year. That's a real shame. But like I said at the start of the episode, all we can do is keep rolling on. Hopefully another New York territory crops up. If they do and they do well, then we'll be absolutely happy to invite them into the fold here in the Confederation of the Territories. We have new tag team champions as we move into a bright new year, 2023. The year that the 2013 series never got to see. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope to see you guys next time. Peace out.